So yeah, this is well, you can see from the title, it's we all feel a different amount of emotions when we wear fragrance. I think that's why most of us wear it. It can take us to different places, good or bad. And being sad sounds like a weird one. Well, the fact is, we all feel a bit sad sometimes, and some of us feel sad quite often, and it's just part of life. We're all wired different ways, and as the weather gets more like this, some of this fog's cleared up, so it's not that bad. As the weather gets more like this, it gets darker, it gets grimmer and colder, etc. It can really affect our moods, and sometimes it's best to kind of embrace it. Sometimes we'll wear fragrances to cheer us up. Sometimes we'll just wear fragrances just to, kind of embrace that moment. I'm not saying we should feel sad all the time, and we should look out for that, but it's good sometimes, isn't it? It's good as a human being to go through the emotions and that. So these are going to be fragrances that kind of suit that. It's not going to be a particularly long one or whatever. But anyway, we'll get cracking on. And I know I do this kind of maybe every year. I think it was melancholy fragrances last year, but yes, it's good. So first on the list is one I always kind of associate with things like this. Sad for many reasons actually, but Pourpre d'Automne from Maison Viole. Now that's discontinued now, and that is sad. This is a very wonderful fragrance. It's kind of it's grey, and it's kind of mauve coloured, and it's the kind of slowly getting cooler. The colours, there's colours in there, but they kind of fade away as you move more into a kind of, like I say, grey mauve. And it's I think it has mimosa, which is kind of the colour in there, and then you kind of get the chalky orris, the kind of violets coming through, giving that bit of powderiness. And this is one that always to me is like, I mean the leaves are still there, but you know what I mean. It's a walk on one of them days where sky's this colour, the leaves are turning, there's not many leaves left on the tree. They're all falling down, and yes, yeah, that's kind of a sad moment. But you've got to think autumn is the kind of happy time of transitioning into the season of death and gloom. So it's the last kind of bough, and that's very much what Pourpre d'Automne is. It's very calm, cool, relaxing, one that kind of just makes you kind of contemplate and think. It's also, obviously, it serves as a beautiful perfume. I mean, you can't beat rose, iris, violet kind of ones, can you? And it does have that beauty, but this is where it takes me. So that's Pourpre d'Automne from Maison Viole. Next is from Frederic Malle, and that's a portrait of a lady. Now this one to me has always kind of been this sad, lonely rose, all alone, maybe on the top of a hill. It's the last one left. There's snow on the ground. Everything's kind of washed out and muddy. The sky is very grey and gloomy. And this rose has been forgotten about. And it's slowly getting towards the end of its time. It's bowing down, it's drooping down, and it's just kind of facing the coming end, really. Now we know Portrait of a Lady, a famous one. It's that patchouli rose. To me, a kind of more earthy patchouli, and the rose is a little bit more sharp. And it is very, don't get me wrong, it's very beautiful, but it has this kind of, like I say, calm sadness, the feeling of loneliness. It isn't one of them big, huge, rosy fragrances. It is that one sad, contemplative kind of rose, and that's why I like it. It's not one, I mean, I have travel size of it, and it's not one I'd say I wear often or love a lot. I wouldn't want a bottle, but as a kind of peaceful, chilled rose for this time of year, I think it's kind of perfect. So that's a Portrait of a Lady from Frederic. Next is from Amouage, and it's Opus III this time. Again, it's another kind of violety one, violet iris. Again, there is the brighter, there's mimosa in this one as well actually. It's kind of that little bit of a brighter floral, and in the beginning it's quite full. It's kind of sweeter, proper violet iris one, and then it kind of dries down and becomes more woody, and the musks are quite magic in this one, but it becomes more woody and more papery, and someone, Claire Smith actually described this as like a library, like a booky one, and I can definitely see that, and it's kind of a walk round an old library that was one day glorious in its pomp, back in the days when we used to read all them millennia ago, back in the 1990s, before the Tories shut down all the libraries. And it's kind of got this sadness of all these shelves of books slowly starting to deteriorate and kind of rot away and turn to dust, and that the library's empty, but you can still kind of hear and imagine the sound of the people humming around. Obviously a library's not very noisy, is it, but it has that hum and people flicking pages and that kind of the rich smell of the paper and people being excited by knowledge, which is something that's now woke. You can't have knowledge or science or reading or understanding. We just have to believe what demagogues tell us and idiots for their own personal reasons. But anyway, it has that sadness of a kind of time gone by, a time of knowledge and learning and excitement and optimism, and that's why this is quite a sad one. So that's Opus III from Amouage. Next is Red Queen, and that's from 4160 Tuesdays. Now this one is not the same as Portrait of a Lady. It's got the same kind of vibe. It's kind of patchouli, woody, a dark rose. There's a little bit of a bitter rose in there as well, and it's kind of much richer and much more kind of noticeable, this one, I think. And obviously I presume it's supposed to represent Queen of Hearts kind of thing, but again, despite it being big and kind of seductive, it gives you that feeling of something that has been again. This Red Queen, this person, this huge force, this kind of magnificent stamp in the world is now fading into obscurity, into nothing, withering away as age takes her, and all that gravitas is kind of going away, and it's sad in that sense. Don't get me wrong, the fragrance is kind of very beautiful. It dries down, the kind of lingering of the rose as all the other notes kind of start to take over, and it's like a has been great by the time you get to the end. The slow kind of seduction and power and influence all simmers down gently, and that's why it's a sad sense. So that's Red Queen from 4160 Tuesdays. Next is Viole Nere. This is from Fusciuni, and this is your kind of very melancholy violet. It's that kind of end of winter as the roots of spring start to blossom and the flowers start to come through, the violet flower in this case. But it starts off very cold, very kind of melancholy, and a mauve purple again, almost a kind of silvery feel, where there's nothing, just this kind of dry, dead earth. And then the earth starts to warm up with the, I think there's violet leaf as well as the violet flower coming through, so there's sprouts of greenness and that comes through. And I think what makes this one sad but beautiful is obviously there's the representation of winter, but as spring comes through you've still got that memory of winter, haven't you? That memory of the endless sad and death and grimness. And that's why I think this one works. And it's, yeah, there's a bit of hope in this one. There's that kind of feeling things will get better, life will return, the sweetness and greenness will come back to the earth, nature will flourish again. So it's a very good one. So that's Viole Nere from Mio Fusciuni. Next is from Zaharoff, and that's her signature Pourpre. Now this one always makes me think of my dad, which is why my dad's still here, by the way. I just don't see him much, and I suppose it's that kind of lost time of childhood. My parents got divorced when I was quite young, and my mother, well, let's put it this way, made sure we spent as little time as possible with our dad. And I think whether we have a good relationship with our fathers now or not, I think as children we all crave both parents, don't we? Especially if one of the parents is not as warm as the other. There's reasons for that, isn't there? There's no bitterness there, but this has that kind of, has the lavendery, almost fougere nod of that time, and in there's kind of a darkness, a kind of oud, there's like a leatheriness, the dark resins. And my dad back in them days used to be a bit of a mechanic, so kind of get that darkness from that side. Obviously there's the classic style of the fragrance itself, and kind of having a hug as a kid, and spending time with your dad. And again, I can only speak for myself, I don't know everyone, but I am very similar to my dad in the sense, personality wise, kind of soft natured, a bit awkward, that kind of thing. And I think I miss them. I wish I'd had more of them. Again, my dad is still here. I still hug my dad when I can see him and stuff. But yeah, that's why it's kind of sad. It's kind of that, them lost years of childhood and maybe what could have been kind of things, isn't it? So that's Zaharoff signature Pourpre. So next is from Tom Ford, and that's Noir de Noir. Yep, so yeah, I think this can fit any mood, any moment, any whatever. We know it. The dark rose, the truffle, slight oudiness, that sweet kind of chocolate patchouli, the kind of vampire kind of dark seductive feel. But I think this one can be a sad one, because especially for me and all of us, as we get older, we realise, you know, we perhaps don't have that natural charm and magnetism. We don't walk with the same confidence anymore. We're getting old, we become wise, rather than you know, peacocking and such like. You know, I mean, my hair hasn't thinned, but it's gone grey and stuff. And I suppose it kind of reminds you of the passage of time and how we've changed and how our lives have changed. You know, we are good, exciting pasts, you know, all the relationships and fun and everything that we had, which is part of life. There's no point dwelling on that and missing and yearning for that again, because that's what's made us who we are now. And we're a lot calmer, but there is a certain sort of sadness, the effect this fragrance would have on someone who's just kind of smelling it for the first time, that kind of, oh, this is so kind of magnetic and wonderful, let me sniff you. And when we're younger, I mean, that's literally it, isn't it? We're more magnetic, more people want to know us and talk to us. But society is cruel to people who age, and aren't as interesting and wild as we once were, because yeah, we have to grow up one day, don't we? And I think that's why Noir de Noir, for me particularly, has a certain sort of sadness. That's Noir from finally is Misia from Chanel. Now this one works actually in a funny kind of way that I've put this one in here for many reasons. It's that purple one again. You know, that purple can have so many different effects, can't it? One of them being, it's quite a sad colour sometimes. But in Misia it's that big kind of powdery makeup room of times gone by. They weren't great times. Obviously, when we look back on them, the 1920s, people had money, you know, and the life, the party life and stuff, the lack of rights and all that. We won't get too into that. But I think what this represents is a perfume in its style and its kind of pomp and its elegance and its massive presence, and the fact it does transport us back to a time we never lived in, and we get them kind of romantic ideas of how great it was, is how great perfume was. How even over the last few years, perfume's gone from this beautiful, creative, kind of elegant thing to being sweet, sticky, caramel vomit. I don't have an issue with synthetics, but synthetics being the molecular things taking over and being the more dominant, them just being crass blobs of nothing, generic nonsense that's cost them no money at all to make, because you just packed it full of substandard, poor, cheap ingredients, and also they've kind of gone, let's just make them all the same, this is what's popular now, and they've all been bought up by every company going. Now Chanel, again, this is why this works, this kind of has stayed independent. It obviously, the things that, you know, they've had to reformulate for various reasons, so things might not be exactly as they were, but it carries that kind of elegance and class and sophistication and simplicity of times gone by, not these just horrific, obnoxious room for that. I mean, this is what we're about, modern society. Give me attention. I'm making videos to put on YouTube. I ain't innocent. Give me attention. Look at me. I'm gonna force this fragrance in your face from 3 miles away, and it's gonna stay with you for the next 6 months. It's what fragrances have become. But Misia has that nod to the elegance of the past. So yeah, that's why it's kind of a sad one, as well as, you know, the purple feel, etc, etc. So Misia from Chanel. So yeah, this was just a video about sad fragrances and why these particular ones might make me sad or have that feeling of being sad. And like I say, embrace it. Nothing wrong with being sad. How can you be happy if you've never been sad? And such words of wisdom like that. And we all feel it sometimes. Some people lie and deny it and hide it because, you know, toxic masculinity and all that crap which still exists. But nothing wrong with being sad, and nothing wrong wanting that feeling sometimes, you know, just wanting to have a bit of a sulk and feel a bit crap. And, you know, today's like this. I'm going to get home, strip down to my box shorts, sit with a cup of tea and be like, and what's wrong with that? It's needed, isn't it? Gives the mind a rest. So what about you? What are your saddest fragrances? Why are they sad? Like, I've not gone too deep in this one. It's not what it's about. But yeah, alright folks, thanks for watching and bye.